I'm Commander Stephanie Sterling, and I'm a little bit ticked off because of the noise. We're supposed to be filming for the video, and now I'm gonna get a copyright strike. Thanks. Anyway, before you all start whining and complaining that, oh my god, they showed 15 seconds of wrestling again, as if it's too much, it's actually pertinent this time. It is actually a point, because first of all, we're talking about Street Fighter, which is like punching and kicking and that, and second of all, there is actually a really good wrestling-related allegory that I'm going to share at the end. So, enjoy! Oh. Hi! I'm Stephanie Sterling, and I can't play fighting games. If you've ever heard me chat about them before, you'll be well aware that unless we're talking about the obvious exception that is Smash Brothers, I cannot fucking play those things. Oh, and let's take it as a blanket given that Smash Bros is an obvious exception in everything I say today, because despite the shared DNA, it's very clearly distinct from traditional one-on-one fighters. I've tried here and there, desperately at times, to get into the genre, but to my great sorrow, the only fighters I've ever played to any great degree are the same ones I always bring up when I have this discussion. Historically, my fighter experience still predominantly consists of Eternal Champions, Primal Rage, and Rise of the fucking Robots. Well, I say that. At least that's the list I've always given in the past, but things are different now. For indeed, here comes a new challenger, Street Fighter 6.
Yeah, I'm an ass man.
A game so playable, I can not only casually play it, I can play it to such an extent. I'm going to be publishing the very first fighting game review I've ever written in my near 2-decade reviewing career. That's phenomenal. That's a revelation. That is the accessible fucking brilliance of Street Fighter 6. So let me slightly rephrase my introductory sentence. Hi, I'm Stephanie Sterling, and I can't play fighting games as they've existed until now. I have a memory disorder that prevents me from recalling the complex button combinations that have come to typify the genre with increasing intricacy. Even if I could remember them, I lack the physical dexterity for the buggers, while the ADHD responsible for my memory problems ensures I won't be able to keep track of them anyway alongside all the other systems and mechanics, while keeping an eye on an opponent who, by the time I've bashed into all the other hurdles, is actually the least of my troubles. It's not about getting good at the game. I've always loved the idea of fighting games, the characters and the excitement around them, but I've forever felt locked out of them because what they require is more than a simple skill check. They require certain cognitive and physical traits I simply do not possess and never will. You can't get good at not having a memory disorder. You can't get good at data entry when you have a brain literally wired against being good at data entry. But fighting games evolved down a very particular path, one that championed mechanical complexity and has at times outright resisted attempts to make them more accessible. And as much as I always wanted to play them, I had accepted that they just weren't made for me. Games like Street Fighter had a very particular, very ingrained audience, and the best I'd get to do would be to spectate, like I always used to when I watched my brother play Street Fighter 2 and got annoyed because he always picked boring Ryu and not the big green monkey man or the fuckable queen in the mask. Nothing against Ryu, it's just when I was a kid, he was An Bloke TM alongside all the more colourful characters, and everyone I knew only ever picked him. He's actually awesome in Street Fighter 6, he's like a chill old guy now and he can't work his phone and it's adorable and I want to be his long-term girlfriend. You know, we've been together for years and we live together and we always talk about getting married, but we never make any real plans. And it's unspoken, but neither of us really feel like we have to get married to prove that we love each other despite all the pressure from his mum. We only just got both our parents off our backs about our never having children, which again was something unspoken. Having kids is something we've just never discussed, we never thought about it, we never needed anyone but each other. It's funny looking back, the amount of times Rio and I agreed on things mutually without ever having to speak about them. And it's not like we ever had trouble communicating. I think think one of the reasons our relationship has stood the test of time the way it has is because when we needed to talk about our feelings, we could talk. And we've been through a lot, like when the steel mill closed and he lost his job, or like when Shadaloo kidnapped me and used psycho energy to turn me into an assassin and I tried to kill him. Oh, we laugh about that. God, Cammy gives me so much shit about that to this day, though to be fair, I did strangle one of her cats. I'd also like to thank Laura for subtitling this week's Jimquisition and apologise for the fact that I just went off script in a massive way. Fucking hell, where were we? Right, Street Fighter. A series of games I've always wanted to love, but historically never could, for a variety of cognitive and physical barriers that kept me from playing. But then, Street Fighter 6 comes along, upends the table, then sets me a place at the newer, bigger table. I've never felt so welcomed by a fighter, and as someone who could never survive more than 5 minutes with one of these games, after sinking dozens of hours into this fucker, I'm still getting a little overwhelmed with happiness every single time I win a match, which I can sometimes even do against people.
Yes! Yes!
Street Fighter 6 still offers an extravagant, complex control scheme under the classic controls designation, but its new modern control option has made it not only possible for me to play, but be downright viable as something I can get into, improve at, maybe even one day, dare I say, get good at? I mean, perhaps not good. I'm still a bit rubbish, but then again, winning half my matches online as I catch up to several decades of missed Street Fighter action ain't shit, all things considered. Modern controls, in the broadest sense, essentially halves the number of basic combat inputs while replacing long button strings with a Smash Bros. Style approach, where you press a single button while pushing the movement stick in different directions to pull off various special moves. I'm free of having to hammer in lengthy command strings while quarter-turning, back and forthing and performing a sacred rite that can be performed once a century when the moon is in the 8th house of Aquarius. If I want to make Ryu do a Hadouken, I press the button. If I want him to do a Shoryuken, I press the button while pushing forward. If I want him to do a Clock de Burgess, I press the button while pushing back. As a kid, I always heard it as Clock de Burgess. It's that straightforward. There's a little more nuance than that, of course, and each character builds off these fundamentals differently to play uniquely. For example, Best Gladiator Girl Marisa has a whole bunch of extra special attacks that come from further inputs after doing a little blocky counter move. Nevertheless, the basic principle is the same. The fiddly shit has been replaced with a streamlined, elegant system designed to be far less intimidating and has proven to make the game accessible to such a degree, it's friggin' incredible. I can, like, do stuff now. I can do moves. I can fucking play the game. You sacrifice some level of agency with modern controls. Since there are fewer attack buttons than with classic mode, the game contextually chooses your basic strikes for you, while you only control whether that strike is light, normal, or heavy. I don't fucking care though. The trade-off is well worth it, considering the choice between these control schemes for someone like me is play with a little less agency versus don't fucking play at all. All I know is I have enough control to make Best Gladiator Girl Marisa do the move where she bends someone over and smashes them into a heap whenever I want, and that's all I need. Fuck, I love that move so much, I literally stole it for my actual pro wrestling moveset. It's a work in progress, we need to make the strike look better, but it makes even a collared little bitch like me feel like a fucking dummy mommy. Where are you going? What Street Fighter 6 did was important. I truly mean that. This is one of the most important things a game has done for its entire genre ever. No hyperbole. No sarcasm. This is the most positive addition to the genre of fighting games since Smash Bros. Introduced tripping. But no, I genuinely believe that Street Fighter 6's move toward making a traditional fighting game that almost anyone can start playing is historically bloody significant. Hell, I'd say the game's immense commercial success is bearing that out. The more people who can play, the more are likely to buy after all. A little accessibility truly does go a long, long way, as evidenced by just how obsessed with Street Fighter 6 I've become since I started playing it. I've poured days after days into this thing, mostly enjoying the delightfully eccentric World Tour mode, but getting plenty of mileage out of online battles and one-on-one fights, where I just pick best Gladiator Girl Marisa and bend dickheads over all the time. See, it turns out that I am a massive Street Fighter fan. I just never got a chance to become one properly until Street Fighter actually gave me that chance. It only had to offer me a way to play, and I was more than ready to fall in love with it. And like, it's just made me so fucking happy. Everything about Street Fighter 6, from the modern controls to the extensive tutorials for every single character detailing how they play, is designed to tear down the alienating wall of inaccessibility that has kept myself and so many others away from the genre. And the game never stops acclimating players like myself, consistently and carefully drip-feeding what would be an overwhelming mass of mechanics and features in such a measured way that everything starts to make natural sense. SF6's story-led world tour mode is fantastic, putting players in a charming Yakuza-style world with lots of low-pressure mooks to beat up and featuring specific tutorial matches dotted about. What's really clever is something I didn't even realise until it was pointed out to me. World Tour sneakily gets players used to the classic controls via mini-games that require timed button inputs. While you think you're just doing QTEs to make pizzas, you're actually drilling quarter turns and backy-forthy maneuvers. It's so fucking clever, and speaks volumes about Street Fighter 6's philosophy of welcoming players into the shallow end and guiding them without forcing them toward the deeper water. Water they will never need to swim in, either, if they decide it's just too choppy. I can't quite describe the elation that comes with actually winning a Street Fighter match after a lifetime of being bad at fighting games and taking it as a given that I couldn't even beat a tutorial. It's like, say, becoming a wrestler after a lifetime of chronic pain and injury, and taking it as a given that I couldn't have even a 2-minute gimmick match. Or I imagine it feels the same way it'll feel if Jeff Dunham ever tells a funny joke. My whole life I've been bad at fighting games. Now I'm competent enough to enjoy one. And I'm getting better. That's the best part. Now that I don't have to scale walls I'd never be equipped to climb, I can actually start to do the thing gaming gatekeepers always say and, you know, get good. Well, not good, but better, like I said. I'm a better Street Fighter today than I was yesterday, and tomorrow I'll be better still. All because I was given the starting point I needed. Very much like PPW and Liam Slater did when I said I'd never be able to wrestle, and they made it fucking accessible. I told you I had an allegory. A deeply personally meaningful one too. I carved a whole new second career as an indie wrestler for myself because the right trainer knew how to guide instead of push, encourage instead of punish, work with a trainee's limitations instead of ignoring them and trying to make a unique case follow an established pattern. You damn right, I think accessibility is important. I found a welcoming home in a world full of barriers and inaccessible hostility, and now I'm wrestling in London on June 29th for a Drag King run promotion called Fist Club. Hell, I've got bookings until November. Not bad for a middle-aged disabled girl. Wrestling has its gatekeepers who say I don't belong, and Lord knows the game community is absolutely full of similar snobby wankers. Gaming's gatekeepers have been salty little bitches about Street Fighter 6's accessibility, because of course they have. These are people so devoid of meaningful accomplishments that they have to feel special for being able to play a computer game that others can't. Of course they feel threatened by a fighting game that anybody can try. Oh, and they do feel threatened. Threatened by increased competition, threatened by the creeping feeling that they're not special anymore, and threatened by, well, the truth. The truth of their own mediocre skill level. The truth, written plain as day, that for all their declarations of get good scrub, when you take down the barriers and genuinely level the playing field, most get gooders are themselves scrubs what need to get good. They can sneer, they can scoff, they can look down on modern controls, make fun of so-called baby modes, act just like the Dark Souls snobs, and declare there's only one true, real, pure way to play a game. They're welcome to petulantly blame the new control scheme for their own losses, but that won't change the fact that with Street Fighter 6's accessibility options, Capcom has introduced a Street Fighter that, perhaps more than any other, is about actual, true skill. It's not about who can do a memory the best, who can press a long string of buttons the best, not anymore. Without those distractions, it can solely be about strategy, adaptability, who can outthink and outmaneuver the other. It's about what makes a fighting game truly beautiful. The tactics, the psychology. It's about how best to use the moves, rather than pulling the moves off to begin with. While writing the script, I remembered another fighting game I have played before and was actually pretty decent at: Dive Kick. It's a fighting game in which you can do two things: jump and kick. I'd gotten pretty good at that game, because it was all strategy, it was all psychology, it was all about the cat and mouse. It was the intellectual essence of a one-on-one fighter distilled. Street Fighter 6 has achieved that distillation on a much broader scale, and has added a muscular as hell hot as fuck best Gladiator Girl on top. Oh, and she's quite welcome on top. Those so-called hardcore gamers who are blaming modern controls for their losses might need to face up to a really hard revelation. Maybe they're just not very good at fighting games. Maybe they never were. They were good at data entry, but when it came time to test their tactical acumen, their ability on a level playing field, the application of their knowledge, instead of just the knowledge itself, they turned out to be straubs. And conversely, a lot of people are finding out that they were actually good at fighting games all along. Good at the parts that really should matter the most anyway. Yeah, if I was a fighting game elitist coasting by on exclusion and Dunning-Kruger effect, I'd be really upset at the modern controls too. The problem for me with SF6 is simply that the game is a scrub haven. Modern controls, drive impact and punishment for good defense are all to cater to the casual player, leaving everyone on the same playing field, sort of like SBMM catered to the noob. God, I wish these people realised just how loudly they are telling on themselves. Just how clearly they are broadcasting their projected insecurity every time they shit on so-called scrubs. They're literally doing the thing they accuse other people of doing. They're asking for the game to cater to them, to pander to them, so that they win it more easily. What is it the elitists love to say? Oh yeah, that's it. Games aren't made for everybody. Well, you might be right about that, darling. Because if you're so incapable of beating a newcomer like me, that you feel the need to force me onto a control scheme that explicitly gives you the advantage, well, honey, perhaps Street Fighter 6 wasn't made for you. Because if you truly think modern controls make you better at the game, you're free to use them too. Or you could always raise your game and get better at using classic controls. Though what you really need to do is just listen to yourself. You are literally complaining about everyone being on the same playing field. How does that not make you the ultimate scrub? One of the best things Street Fighter 6 has done is show the exclusionary, elitist, gatekeeping gamers TM for what they are. A bunch of losers who aren't actually as good at games as they think they are, and can't handle it now that the training wheels have been taken off. Street Fighter is for everybody now. Get good or go home.
Now you know.
Now, none of this is to say SF6 is perfect, of course. In fact, SF6 perfectly demonstrates a current dichotomy with accessibility in game development. The convenient refusal to acknowledge that microtransactions are, as I've been stressing for a while now, an accessibility issue. Game developers are increasingly preening themselves over how accessible their games are. It's the hot new way to get good publicity, and while it's leading to the popular adoption of so many welcome features, any claims by a dev to care about accessibility will unavoidably ring somewhat hollow for as long as that dev explicitly exploits neurodivergent people with predatory economies. Microtransactions and other forms of manipulative monetization are ableist. That's what they are. Capcom, for all the doors it's opened, has nonetheless indulged its lust for in-app purchases to a significant degree alongside a fucking battle pass, all implemented in ways that have started to really tug on my ADHD-addled autistic sleeve the more I've gotten into the game. And that sucks. That fucking sucks. I keep being tempted by the Fighter's Pass. I'm scared I'm gonna buy it out of sheer impulse. And I fear one day I might have to stop playing for this very reason. And I'd hate that, because for once in my life, I'm really into a fighting game, and I otherwise couldn't have been happier about it. Microtransactions prey on neurodivergences and mental illnesses that incorporate struggles with impulse control into their traits and symptoms. These purchases are insidiously designed to exasperate and frustrate people into letting their guard down. And when companies like EA defend them by saying nobody has to buy them, they are decidedly making an ableist statement that trivializes what the intended victims of exploitative monetization struggle against when faced with a game that fully intends to take advantage of their vulnerabilities. I will always applaud positive steps forward in making games more accessible, but I fully believe, no, I know that being pro-accessibility and pro-microtransaction are mutually exclusive things. Autistic people, people with dopamine deficiencies, problem shoppers, those with all sorts of addictions. These people and similar are the whales that game developers love to hunt, and too many times, those people have had to stop playing games they love when they felt the harpoon at their throat. I've had to do it in the past, and I don't want to have to do it with this. I really am fucking delighted that Street Fighter 6 got me and many others like me through the previously bolted door of fighting games. I'm sure Capcom, having potentially widened Street Fighter's audience massively, is pretty chuffed too. There's no doubt SF6 made many new Street Fighter fans. I'm never going to be great at fighting games. At least I don't think. Beyond the disability hurdles, I'm not the kind of collected combatant that could handle anybody who's properly good at it. And I'm not likely to ever have the time required for expert level practice. But I'm just pleased as heck that I can actually play and have fun. That I can enjoy the ridiculously entertaining and entertainingly ridiculous World Tour mode. That I can go online with what my stats tell me is a 50-50 shot of winning. That I can do more than merely spectate. And I like to think that real honest-to-goodness fans of Street Fighter would be happy that more people can enjoy the thing they enjoy. Why wouldn't you? It's good when we don't hoard the stuff we enjoy like weird hobby billionaires. But doesn't matter if they're happy, I'm happy. Anyway, I get to be a big burly best gladiator girl with fuck-off muscles and helmet head. I don't need no one's approval to enjoy that. And I ain't even mentioned being domed by Yuri's feet. Grab, shove, step, make sure you flip your hand, yeah, or is it like that? Either way, it's good. Still can't get the strike good, but like, there you are, instant arm bar, like that, range it, like all that. It's really good. Marisa is best gladiator girl.
Yeah.
There we are. Right. When I was in America, there was this trainer called Paul Atlas. He was, incidentally, the same commentator who repeatedly misgendered me on a show that was airing on my own Twitch stream. Charming man. But he had a training seminar thing going on shortly before I left the country, where he did a big post promising the prospective trainees that they would hurt, that they would be exhausted, broken, they'd be sweating, they'd feel terrible, and I could think of nothing less appealing. Like, I don't want to suffer. I don't want to break. Ever since the hormones, I've started bursting into tears at the sight of a split end. I don't like discomfort. And I realise I say that as someone with massive amounts of chronic pain, but you know, why have any more than you've already got? And I think about how off-putting that was, and I wonder about the amount of wrestlers who could have been great, but never got a chance because of inaccessible gatekeepers who thought that punishment, berating, hurting people, making them feel bad was how you got a good wrestler. And it's that kind of elitism that really gets under my skin. That's the kind of thing that I see in gaming as well, where we think having a bad time, we think mocking people, making them feel bad, just giving people an awful time is the way we go about having fun, which whether it's wrestling or gaming, that is what it's supposed to be about at the end of the day, unless you're playing something like this war of mine, which isn't exactly a laugh riot. But anyway, I just wanted to make that point. I do hope you enjoyed today's episode. I was really excited about this one. This is one of my favourites I've ever done. But anyway, I'm going to go. Just a quick reminder, June 29th in London, I will be debuting with Fist Club as Commander Sterling. The Jimporium.com also has our ridiculously popular The Gays Can Do Whatever They Want t-shirts back in stock. And I believe we've got like a Pride sale going on at the moment as well. We might do. Who knows? I should, but I don't. But that's fine. Go to thejimporium.com for like merch and shit like that. And while you're there, why not take the time to thank God for me? Mwah. Bye. I want to play Street Fighter 6 now.
I want to cuddle.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right, get out of my way and play Street Fighter.
Okay.